All right, this is chapter 9 of your grade 8 textbook. This is the review, end of year review for your retesting purposes and for your preparation for your final exam on June 15th. The first question is true or false. The coefficient of the equation that matches the graph is 2. So here's our graph, and it's asking us for a coefficient, which means technically if it's asking for a coefficient, it wants to know what the equation is. And if you want to know what an equation is to a graph, the first thing you should make is a table of values. So remember, for all of these questions, technically if you're given a graph, you should be able to make an equation and a table of values. If you're given an equation, you should be able to make it a graph and a table of values. If you're given a table of values, you should be able to make the other two. So for this one, you're given the graph, so you should be able to make a table of values, and from that table of values, an equation. Okay? So which point should we start with? Does anyone have any suggestions for which point we should start with on this graph? What's always a good starting point? X is 0 is correct. When x is 0, our y value is always going to tell us what part of our equation? A constant. So in this case, x is 0. So here's our x-axis. It's this line right here, right? It's our x-axis. And when x is 0, y is -1. So right away, I know I can put that -1 in my equation, right? I won't do it right yet because I don't want to confuse people, but we know that that's going to be a part of my equation. When x is 1, y is 1. And when x is 2, y is 3. And really, for graphing purposes or table of values purposes, we don't need any more than 3 coordinates. Now, in order for us to find our coefficient, we have to know how we get that in our equation. And we said that the coefficient of your equation is also known as your slope. But you don't need to know that in grade 8. Just to let you know, the slope is the steepness of the line. And in grade 10, you will learn about slope. Grade 9, you will probably learn about it, but it's not a part of the outcomes. But it is a part of, it helps you learn. Same thing as the y-intercept is your constant. But the coefficient of your equation, the part that goes right here, is determined by the difference in your y-axis divided by the difference in your x-axis. Okay? Or rise over run is what they're going to teach you in grade 10. But the difference in your y, in this case, is going up by 2 each time. And the difference in your x is going up by 1. So a positive 2 divided by a positive 1 gives you a 2 coefficient. Now we said before that when x is 0, y is negative, is your y value is your constant. It's also what we call your what? What do we call that point -1 on this particular line? The y-intercept. It's also where your line crosses the y-axis, right? But we'll figure out that it is -1 through substitution. I'm going to take any pair of values for x and y. I'm going to take 1 and 1. And in my partial equation here, I'm going to put x is 1. There's x is 1. And y is 1. I'm going to substitute it in. 2 does not equal 1. But if I do subtract 1 from both sides, they would become equal. So therefore, my constant is -1. But the question is, the coefficient in the question that matches the graph is 2. Yes, it is. So the answer is true. The coefficient is 2. And we got that through this. Okay? Question 2 says true or false. To find the coefficient of a linear equation, you can use the formula the difference in x divided by the difference in y. Is that true or false? It's false. What should it say? The difference in y divided by the difference in x, right? You have to be a little bit perceptive there, which is kind of an easy one to make a mistake on. But the answer is false. Question 3 says true or false. The constant of the equation that matches the graph is -1. So this is the exact same graph as the first question, isn't it? We already determined that it's -1. But if I didn't want to draw a table of values and I didn't want to do an equation, I could figure out what the constant is by simply looking about where this line crosses the y-axis, because the constant is your y-intercept. And in this case, it crosses it right here, which is y -1, which means that is the constant of your equation. And we know from the first question that your equation is actually, is it 2x or 3x? 2x? 2x minus 1 equals y, is that the equation? Yeah, and that was our constant, so the answer is true. Question 4, true or false? When x equals 100, the value of y in the equation 5x minus 1 equals y is 499. So let's first write down our equation. And when x is 100, means that I will substitute that right in here. So I'm going to substitute when x is 100, and I'm going to simplify it. So when x is 100, y is 499. 499 is a true statement, right? When x is 100 in the equation 5x minus 1 equals y has to be 499 to make them both equal. Question 5 says plot the points from the following table of values, then write the equation that matches the line. All right, so let's look at our table of values. So here we're given a table of values, and the expectation is you should be able to create a graph, and you should be able to figure out the equation. So first thing I'm going to do is look at my graph, and this is my x-axis here. And my x-axis goes from 4 all the way to 12. So I have probably about 20 spaces here. So I'm just going to make each of these 2. I don't need any more than that. I only had to go to 12, so I'll just leave it right there. And for the y values, we have from 10 to 34. So if I have that many, I probably can go up by, how many do I have here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19 of them. So if I make each of them worth 2, that'll take me up to beyond 34. So I'm just going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, and 34 is the largest number I need, so I'm just going to stop there. Okay, I just counted by 2s. 2, 4, 6. Okay. So the first pair is this one here. And if I wrote it as an ordered pair, which you learned in grade 6 and grade 7, x value is 4, y value is 10. If I plot that here, here's my 4, and here's my 10. So if I go up from my 4, go over from my 10, right there would be the point x4, y10. In my next ordered pair, I'd have 6 for my x and 16 for my y. So 6 for my x, 16 for my y is right there. 6, 16. I'm just going to quickly plot the rest of them. 8, 22 would be right around here. 10, 28 would be roughly here. And 12, 34. Uh-oh. I think my line's gone a little wonky, but anyway, it's right there. That's not so bad. Okay? So basically, this line will go on forever, and this x-axis will go on forever, and this y-axis will go on forever. And if I was to go on and continue this up, so 34, 36, 38, dot, 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 all the way up to 111. 111 would be somewhere through the ceiling, out in the sky somewhere. But if I was to take that and then go over from that point to where it would match this continuation or extrapolate that, the question is, where would it be on the x-axis, right? So what I need to do is I need to find an equation. What is this line's equation? So again, I'm just going to take this over here because it's a little messy. Let's see what I can do here. Take this away. Hey, yeah, hello. Oh, not the 10. Leave the 10. No, not the 12. Take the... Oh, for God's sake. There we go. And one more. There we go. All right, now we have our table. So if we go down here, it's going up by 6 each time. And over here, it's going up by 2. So remember, to find my difference, so positive 6 divided by positive 2 tells me it's positive 3, which means in my equation, 3 is my coefficient. Now I can do one of two things. I could substitute. I could go 3 times 4 equals the y value of 10. 12 does not equal 10, but if I take away 2 from both of them, that will tell me the answer. The other thing I could have done is I could have actually extended this line down. The only problem is my line's not perfect, but if I did, I would see that it crosses the y-intercept at negative 2. So that's my equation. Now, once you have that equation, what should you do next? Substitute right here. So substitute 111 for y. So 3x minus 2 equals, instead of y, I want to put 111. So when y is 111, what is the value of x? What I really have to do here is isolate the variable by adding 2 to both sides. 3x equals 113. Divide both sides by 3. I get x equals 37 and 2/3. Or 37.6 repeating, correct? Anyone else get that? 37.6 repeating, oops, or 37 and 2/3. I particularly like this one because it's actually not a repeating decimal. 2/3 is a repeating decimal if it's translated, but I like 37 and 2/3 as an answer better. That was a hard question. Question 6 gives you a graph and tells you to make a table of values for it. Okay? So if we take this one, what is the value of y when x is 10? First thing I need to do is plot 3 points. So I'm going to start with just those 3 red points. My table of values will go x and y. When x is 0, y is negative 4. When x is 1, y is 1. And when x is 2, y is 6. Now you could have chosen different points. I like choosing x is 0 because it tells me in my equation what my constant will be. Here it's going up by 5. Here it's going up by 5. Here it's going up by 1. And here it's going up by 1, which means in my equation, 5 will be my coefficient. Now without substituting, this point tells me what my constant is. If x is 0, y is negative 4. So what's my constant? Negative 4, right? If you don't believe me, you could substitute in. So when x is 0, y is negative 4. 0 doesn't equal negative 4, but if I put that negative 4 in, it keeps it balanced, right? So the equation that defines that line, I can write it right on it, is 5x minus 4 equals y. Every point on that line will fit into that equation. And when that's done, what is the value of y when x is 10? I just take my equation, substitute 10 for the x, and simplify it to be 46. So when x is 10, so right here, if I was to go up there and meet this line, y would be 46 when it crosses that. When x is 10, y will be 46. Okay? Kind of clear as mud. Again, this video will be online, so you can just watch it again and pause and put it in slow motion and think about it and breathe and go get popcorn and watch some YouTube and then go back and watch it again, etc., etc. Question 7 says graph the equation 3x minus 1 equals y. So here we're given an equation, and we have to be able to graph it and make a table of values. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a table of values. Now, when no x values or y values are given on the graph, the easiest thing to do is just write 0, 1, 2. Okay? Just choose random x values. The easiest ones to choose are 0, 1, and 2, or you can do 1, 2, and 3. It's up to you. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do all 4 of them. And what you do is you just take your equation and substitute the first one you put in there. So x is 0. So when x is 0, the y value is negative 1. Now if I do that again, and this time take 1, so 3 times 1 minus 1 equals y. Then 3 minus 1 equals y. Then 2 equals y. 2. Now, here's the important question. Do I have to substitute again, or do I know through patterns what my next two numbers will be? If I know it's linear and it's going up by 3 here, which is what my coefficient is, can I predict what the next two letters are without doing substitution? What's the next one going to be? It's going to go up by 3. And here it's going to go up by 3. That's going to be 8. So when I graph the equation, I just have to choose those. Now here's the difficult part. X goes from 0 to 3, and I have lots of space here for that. Y has a negative 1 in the 0, doesn't it? In this particular quadrant, do I have a y value of negative 1? No. So I can't graph this first pair. I can't graph this one because I don't have a y. Y's negative 1's down here, right? So because I don't have that, I'm going to ignore that ordered pair, right? And I'm simply going to graph 1, 2, 3. So I'll put a 1, a 2, and a 3. And I need to go 2 to 8. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. 1, 2 is right here. 2, 5 is right here. 3, 8 is right here. And that's my graph. And if you want, right on the line, you can go 3x minus 1 equals y. Every point, every coordinate, every ordered pair that fits on that line will work in the equation 3x minus 1 equals y. Any questions? All right, the last one is the hardest one, probably. So pay attention as we go through this one. It says the cost of going paintballing. So if you wanted to go paintballing out in Cavendish this summer, I think it's more expensive than this, but we'll pretend this is the actual cost. The cost of going paintballing is $20 to get in for rental. That's for your gun and your ski mask and whatever else you wear. Plus $4 for every 100 pack of paintballs. That's really cheap. It should be around $20 per 100 pack. But anyway, create an equation for this situation and make an appropriate table of values and graph. So first thing I'm going to do is define my variables. X is going to be equal to the number of packs of paintballs. And Y will equal the total cost. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just define what my values are going to be. And for this one, I probably should have given you that information. I said X can be the total number of packs of balls, and Y can be the total cost. Probably on your retest, I probably will tell you that. So, the expression 4X, 4 times X, would mean $4 for every pack of balls. So if you bought 10 packs of balls, this would be $4 times 10 packs. The term 4X actually represents the cost of the paintball purchases. Now to that, you need to add a constant of plus 20 because you have to pay $20 regardless of how many packs of balls you buy. It's going to cost you $20 for rental of gun equals Y. See, the equation you should have been able to create is 4X plus 20 equals Y. Okay? Now once you have that, it says to graph it. Okay? Here's where it gets a little tricky. So now that you have an equation, I'm going to graph 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if you don't buy any paintballs, X would be 0. You're going to just be a moving target for the entire afternoon. If you buy 0 packs of paintballs, how much will it cost you to go paintballing? $20. And I know that because 4 multiplied by 0 plus 20 will be 0 plus 20, which will just be $20. If you buy 1 pack of paintballs, it'll cost you $4 for that. Plus 20 will be $24. 2 packs will be 28, and 3 packs will cost you 32. Okay? Now, when I graph it, it's a little bit trickier. This is going to be a 1 pack of paintballs, 2 packs of paintballs, 3 packs of paintballs. But my y-axis is going to be tricky because my y-axis starts at 20 and only goes up by 4. Does anyone remember how we have to graph that on the y-axis? What we have to do, what little trick we have to do to make that work? We got to do the little sideways W. That's right, Brent. right there. So what we do is essentially squish that y-axis all the way down so it starts, rather it's starting at 2 or 4, we're going to start it at actually 20. So right here we're going to define this as 20. We're going to ignore 1 through 19. And we're just going to go up, in fact I'm going to go up by 2s. Because I knew I had enough room to do it that way. You could have gone up by 4s. You could do whatever you want. I'm going to go up by 2s just because it looks pretty. Gives a little bit more space to my line. So when x is 0, there's 0 on the x. Y is 20 is that point right there. When x is 1, y is 24. When I buy 2 packs of balls, it'll cost me $28, which is right there. And when I buy 3 packs of balls, it'll cost me $32, which is right there. So there's your equation. So to write that out again, every point that fits on here is this. Now keep in mind, if I bought 2.5 packs of balls, right? Taking my equation, if I bought 2.5 packs of balls, I would put 2.5 there. That would cost me $10 for paintballs, plus $20 for rental, that's $30. So look here, 2.5 would be right here, wouldn't it? And if I go to 2.5, it roughly, that's called interpolation. You'll learn that in grade 9. That tells me how much 2.5 packs of balls. So any point that I can think of that fits on that line could be a price I would pay going paintballing. Okay? Any questions with that? Nothing?